Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geopolitics in Conflict show. Hi, Ross.
Hey, David.
Good to see you.
It's nice to be with you and with everyone else.
Well, I know because they were asking, where is Ross? And I said, he's around. It's just there are certain topics that I cover by myself first and falls within my background. But tomorrow, as I mentioned yesterday, Ross and I were going to be doing the Sweden one. So
Also, part of what I'm doing is developing content for our website, for our membership.
for our members, yes.
Really
yeah, thank you
powerful
for that, Ross. I know. One of our viewers mentioned that, we kind of, and I said, no. We are a team. Each one of us is focusing on a specific task. So,
Right.
So anyway, good to see you guys. I feel better, and based on the recommendation of one of our viewers, he asked me to drink green tea. So
All right.
it is. So no, it's getting better by the day, and I can't thank you enough, guys, for your kind words and support and so forth. So before we launch into the topic today, make sure you guys subscribe if you have not done so, and also check out our master class that we're going to be doing, I think on May 19th or 20th, somewhere around
sometime
that time.
soon.
Yeah, we'll put the description for you or the link at the bottom, and just sign up for that one. So anyway, let's jump to our topic today.
Oh, my goodness. Oh,
Isn't that something, Ross?
this strikes me as bordering on the unbelievable. But here it is.
Yeah, and whoever thought Sweden and Finland, they have been neutral
For 50
years.
50 years.
Yeah. So now it tells me, for me personally, the way I read it, and like I always tell you, guys, you think about the outside influences and trends to form that picture. What is telling me personally now, Ross, is that both countries have been pressured behind closed doors to go that route.
They even openly say, we've worked very closely with the United States. Okay. So has the United States been pressuring them? Well, we don't know for sure because they haven't said it out loud in words.
Yeah.
But we have to ask, are they being pressured by some outside source?
Well, I feel comfortable saying yes, And here is what we're going to be talking to you about today. It's just, what are the implications, geopolitical and security implications to all that? So without going into the history, of course, because the last time a war between Soviet Union and Sweden took place in about 1809. That was the last time. So we're not going to go that far back. What we're going to talk about from World War II forward, in other words, the establishment of the East and West.
Right.
And what was interesting about that, Ross, is that what I found very interesting is that both countries decided at the height of the Cold War, they decided to stay neutral.
No more.
Yeah. And at that time, Soviet Union didn't bother Sweden or Finland because from a security perspective, Soviet Union at that time said, hey, if you stay neutral, you got nothing to worry about. And the Soviet Union at that time held its word to the bargain.
Right.
It's kind of, and Sweden and Finland were doing fine.
And that means that region, that small region, was non-nuclear.
And it wasn't. The Nordic states in general, including, and we have some members from Norway that we talk about. They feel at peace. Yes, Russia right now or today is the neighbor, but they don't feel any, threat from the Russians and so forth. It just was that idea of how come all of a sudden, because to me this is a sudden switch.
Yeah.
That it has to have some reason to it. It didn't happen in a vacuum. And I know the Secretary General of the NATO, Stoltenberg, who is from, I think, Iceland, if I'm not mistaken, he went over to Finland and met with the Finnish president. So
interesting.
And that tells me right there. But here is the thing that you guys need to know. What you need to know is that the prime minister of Finland, her name is Sanna Marin or something.
Something.
Yeah. Yeah, hold on a second,
Have you
because
ever
I am gonna. Yeah, Sanna Marin. Well, Sanna Marin was sort of. It was part of the young leaders of the World Economic Forum.
Oh no, another one of those.
Yeah, and right there, it tells me the idea of, are we looking at some push by some other entities behind the scene that goes beyond the United States, beyond the West?
Yeah.
So,
Matter of fact, we have a very, I think, a very interesting show coming up on exactly that.
yeah, we're gonna do that one. So, and that is the whole idea of where this is going. Now, the question that we need to ask is, how do Swedish people and Finnish or Finns feels about all this? Psychologically, what it all means. Are they in favor? Are they not?
Well, we actually have some statistics on it.
Yeah, let's hear it, Ross.
Finland, 57% of the Finnish population is in favor of joining NATO, if you can believe the numbers.
Mm.
And they always have to question the numbers. But a big survey said 57% think that they need the protection or whatever.
Mm. Yeah, well, that's what the prime minister is suggesting.
Yes.
The case in Sweden is different.
Oh,
You know why? Because the Swedish government is refusing to allow a referendum about this issue. And we all know what it means. So if we are to say we live in a democracy, you're going to have to allow people's say into. That's almost like, you know what it reminds me of? What took place in Australia.
oh my goodness.
Australian people had no say into this issue of the AUKUS and the submarine and all those. They had no say. Even for us here in the United States, do we have referendums?
No.
You look at no further than the decision now that's been made in the Supreme Court regarding the Roe versus Wade. 7 people deciding for a whole nation. That's, to me, it's a joke.
Right.
Yeah. So this is what I found very interesting about Sweden, is that the government, and I think I did found a quote from when I digged into that one, that the Swedish government sort of didn't allow the referendum. As, and I quote here, guys, as the Swedish government sees it, a referendum is not a good idea. It will take time to organize and not fit the government's plan to take advantage of the existing window of opportunity to consider a faster route to a possible NATO membership.
It doesn't matter how you look at that. That's absurd.
It is absurd.
It's just absurd. That means the government, the people in the government, it's not the government, the people in the government are usurping the rights of the people.
Yeah.
And making decisions for them without their consent. Again.
And that's what I found very unusual, Ross. How come you claiming yourself to be a democracy and not allowing your people a say into it? And this is what's disturbing. But the whole thing, it's about the security and the geopolitical landscape. As I argued in my Russia book way back, and at that time, I said to myself, Sweden and Finland, they should be in a good shape.
Let me go ahead and read this paragraph from your book. The geopolitical landscape today differs much from that of the past. Russia today thinks in terms of security, no surprise there, economics, and of course, a sphere of influence in the near abroad region. For instance, Moscow issued a warning in July 24th, 2018, that Russia will take responsive measures if Finland and Sweden join NATO.
Yeah, and to me personally, and this is my personal opinion, I would not be surprised that Russia, if, this is a big if, Sweden and Finland decided to join NATO, that Russia is going to react militarily. So the question, as of now, we are not certain yet whether Sweden and Finland is going to move forward with that decision or not.
They certainly are making all the noise of it, though.
And this is where it becomes the question: is it just noise? Because apparently, of course, the Ukraine crisis created an opportunity for NATO to even get larger. I mean, to the point that NATO is talking about the Pacific now. You know, concerns about the Pacific. So, which is a joke.
Have they ever considered how far away
I know
from Europe
if you look at the
the
map.
Pacific Ocean is?
Yeah, exactly. And this is where the concern is. So geopolitically speaking, what I will foresee and predict that will happen if and when Sweden and Finland goes into join NATO, Russia is going to move its medium-range missiles to the border. Because if you look at the map, you know, there's Sweden here, Finland, and Russia. I remember when I was in Helsinki, way back, I was in Helsinki, and I didn't realize at that time the distance between Helsinki and Moscow. So, yeah. So I had my chance to visit Soviet Union back then, but I didn't. So I ended up going back to Stockholm at that time because I was just traveling. You know, I was 20 years old or whatever at that time. So got a backpack and got lost in Europe. So, but it was very interesting to see. And literally what I observed was how Finns, you know, and even the Swedish people, a very calm society, very prosperous at that time. And most Scandinavians have their own lifestyle that it differs completely from Southern Europe. And this is, to me, is disturbing to the point that all of a sudden you've been living in peace for over 50 years. Why triggers it? Why trigger tensions? Why trigger instability for your country?
You know, I keep coming back to this situation. Just seems absurd. I haven't read anywhere that Russia, the Russian Federation, is making any moves against any of the countries in the Baltic area or Finland, Sweden, any of those, making no moves at all, no rhetoric, nothing. And here it is, Sweden and Finland, we got to respond.
Yeah.
We got to protect ourselves.
Yeah, and that's why, Ross, I am convinced personally that it has been some pressures behind the scenes, you know, whether it's from NATO, which is not from NATO, basically, because who decides in NATO? They just say it. It's the United States. We own it, you know, like anything else. If you, the entity, whatever that entity is, own an entity that you control the budget and all that stuff, you have a say into it. So, and this is why you are noticing right now there are no peace talks between Ukraine and Russia anymore, because we all know Ukraine cannot make decisions. It's the United States that is. You know? And speaking of Ukraine, while I'm thinking about it, there are a lot of last visit of what's her name, Nancy Pelosi. This Saturday went to Kiev. She wasn't in Kiev because Zelensky is not in Kiev.
Really?
Zelensky is in Poland. You know, the media is kind of playing out with it.
You don't mean the media would deceive us?
Yeah, right.
Oh,
right.
man.
So this is the issue. So the tensions not the tensions right now. Well, actually, there are tensions between between Russia and Sweden, and this stems from when Russia expelled 4 Swedish diplomats on April 25th. You know, in response to the decision by Sweden to withdraw the diplomatic status of 3 Russian diplomats in Stockholm. So it's tit for tat.
Yeah, tit for tat.
Yeah. But at the same time, what they are not realizing, Finland and Sweden, is that they are dragging their country into some serious consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
50 years of peace.
Yeah.
And now they're threatened with nuclear holocaust.
Yeah. And I do believe, knowing what I know, and based on the research that I did on the
book,
on the Russian book. So if you get a chance to read it, the research that I did on it is that Russia will react militarily. It's no different than Poland. Russia will react to Poland if Poland allow foreign troops on its soil, and now they are agreeing to nuclear weapons on their territory, which is big time. And speaking of troops, by the way, I don't know if you guys know about it or not, but there are foreign troops from NATO on Polish soil. And once again, it makes me think, Is Polish government that dumb, or is Polish government being under the thumb?
What's your best guess?
We know what it is, Ross.
Right, we do know.
Yeah, so this is the concern that, so from a security perspective, Sweden and Finland have put themselves now really in a bad political position to begin with. Because, despite what you hear, Russia's gonna react militarily. From a geopolitical perspective, this will even further complicate the landscape in the Eastern Europe, and now is expanding to Nordic states.
About the time, this is my personal opinion, but it's not without some real foundation. The real question is, how come NATO even exists? And my personal opinion is it became obsolete about 20 plus years ago. I mean, the Soviet Union is no threat. Yeah. That's what NATO was here to do, protect Europe from aggression from the Soviet Union. Okay. Yeah. And a matter of fact, at the time, I remember the Russian Federation said, well, let's be friends and we'd like to join NATO. And NATO said, maybe another time, which meant absolutely not. We need to continue to have an enemy.
Yeah, to justify. Well, this is I'm not surprised at all this. I did mention this way back, Ross, in one of the previous videos, that it was a memo that was circulating back then in 2008 in Moscow under the former US ambassador to Russia at that time. Was none other than the current director of the Central Intelligence Agency. And the memo at that time was classified, but it was only sent to 3 entities. It was NATO, the Pentagon, and the White House. That's about it. And the content of that memo specifically suggests that we, the West, need to bankrupt economically the Russian Federation. That was 2008. So what we are seeing right now, for example, with the United States allocating more billions of dollars to Ukraine at the expense of the American families, it's an indication for that.
These things are just shocking. Why bother to do anything against the Russian Federation? Like there's some big threat. Yeah. Well, they might really be a threat if you economically ruin them.
Oh, for sure. Even now, the Pope Francis, he's coming and saying, well, NATO, you have created the problems in Ukraine. So I don't buy too much into Pope Francis in a way. I care less for that kind of stuff. But just for the Pope to come over and state something like that, it tells you.
There are any number of very prominent international people who have come to that conclusion. NATO caused the problem in the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'm going to want to admit it to it. So just to go back to our points, guys, geopolitically speaking, is the idea that now, and once again, this is still just in talks right now between Sweden, Finland, and NATO. Nothing is concrete yet. They have not decided yet whether to join or not. What they have agreed upon, and based on the research that I conducted, is that and based on the visit of the Secretary General of NATO to Finland, is that should both governments decide, NATO will expedite the process. Because remember, it takes a while to, which to me, it's still not conclusive. It could be just hypes.
Yeah.
It could be whatever, but nothing is certain yet. But geopolitically speaking, as I said earlier, this is going to impact not only Eastern Europe, it's going to be the Nordic states as a whole. Now, for Iceland and Norway, they might be fine because they've always been neutral. Where the other big change that's going to be is going to be in the Arctic.
Oh, yeah.
And what I mean by this, the Russian Federation has a major base. It's called Glover in the Arctic. I had a chance to look at what's inside that. It's some advanced stuff, technologically and from a weapon perspective. We're looking at, as a matter of fact, some of the weapons they have as some missiles. They can hit Paris within 200 seconds.
No.
200 seconds.
No.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not just saying this out of, I read enough to, yeah, that tells you right. So to me, it becomes the question geopolitically, are we in the West pushing towards a World War III? Because that's, to me, the scenario where things are headed. Do we truly understand the consequences, the psychological devastation, the destruction that's going to lead to?
First of all, the nuclear war would kill so many people in the first few minutes.
Yeah.
Over the course of a year, with the nuclear winter and the nuclear fallout, it's estimated billions of people will die.
Yeah.
And the governments are acting so irresponsibly. They're saying, okay, well, we'll be all right. We'll hide in bunkers.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what about the rest of us?
Yeah, exactly. That is the concern that I personally think about, the responsibility of the politicians. Are they over there to, let me say thank you to Golden Tiger. Thank you so much for your super sticker. We appreciate it. And the statement says the United States decided not to take risks and continue to buy oil and resume purchases of mineral fertilizer from Russia. Yeah, that tells you right there the double.
But don't anybody else do it.
Don't ever, no one else do it.
Just us.
It's kind of double standard for that. I mean, they are realizing European Union or European countries are realizing now the shackles they are in, because they've been shackled too. And usually, one thing that guys you need to always keep in mind, it's when you start noticing the ill-conceived foreign policy decisions, that's an indication for how chaotic things are within a particular government, whatever that government might be. In our case, with the United States, we look at how fragmented our foreign policy. You look at, for example, a decision now by Finland and Sweden to consider NATO. How fragmented this ill-conceived policy emanating from both governments. I take special interest in Finland of Sonamir. What's her name? The
Marin.
Yeah.
I think his name is Sanna Marin.
Yeah, Sanna Marin. Yes.
Yeah.
I take very interest in her case because, as a young leader of the World Economic Forum, makes you just wonder, is this has to do anything with what we call the Great Reset, which we will talk about on the other platform, not here. So you all know why, guys. So this is what I found very disturbing, because it's no different than what Emmanuel Macron is doing, what Ardern of New Zealand is doing, what Morrison is doing, even now Scholz of Germany. They all are realizing, are we following some agenda that is leading us over the cliff? Are we pressured to go that route? Or do truly we, these leaders, have to take into consideration the welfare of the people we represent?
How many times have we observed and even commented on government officials have no accountability to the people? Over and over again, the governments take these actions as if the people and the well-being of their people they're supposed to represent don't matter.
Well, we look at it here in the U.S.
And right.
I talked to some people in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You won't believe how that city is turning. And I used to live in Pennsylvania, so I'm very familiar with Philadelphia. I used to go there a lot. The city looks like you live in some different world out there. So, and yet the government is going and spending money elsewhere. What are we keep giving this money to, rather than developing our own cities, rather than developing our own infrastructure? I know I've been saying this so many times because I don't understand why Americans are not waking up to this reality.
You take a look at the finances here, and 1/5 of the amount of money that's already been given to the Ukraine would take care of the homeless issue in the United States 100%. They're going, really?
Yeah.
We can conquer homelessness? Yeah, we can.
Exactly.
And all the other issues that we're facing, for God's sake.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. This is why we wanted just to highlight to you this issue here, guys. I know it's not been reported much on in the Western media. There are some articles out there regarding Sweden and Finland are in intensive talks with NATO about joining, but they are not disclosing the reality of what the consequences of that decision will be. And mark my word on it, guys. Russia, in this case, will not hesitate to react militarily. It's because geographically, you're looking out at the border right there, Finland and Russia border are so close. And if Finland become a member, that's
with the open declaration of hostility toward Russia, you're sitting in Moscow and you're saying, what do we do to protect ourselves? We're now looking at this huge border with prospective enemies.
Yeah.
We're going, well, we really need to draw some lines here and say there are going to be consequences if you do this.
Exactly. And we're not saying that these countries or any country neighboring Russia should be scared of Russia or afraid of Russia. No, you shouldn't. But at the same time, you're going to have to, the country, whatever that is in a neighboring area, you're going to have to think in terms of security.
Right.
If I am to represent a country in that area, hypothetically, I will be thinking in terms of security. Because without a secured border, without ensuring security and the safety of the people that you are representing, what's left? And this is the big concern that exists within the establishments inside the Russian Federation.
I was listening to speeches that the leadership in both Finland and Sweden were presenting, and they said, well, we take a look at the aggression in Crimea, the illegal attacks and occupation of certain portions of the Ukraine, and we're afraid that will happen to us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just on the surface, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, because if it would have to happen, why didn't it happen 40 years ago?
Right.
At the height of the Cold War.
Right.
It's kind of, it didn't make any sense. So anyway, this is what we wanted to share with you guys, just to update you. I will be doing one particular live next time about the trip of none other than Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Europe and what it means. So, and Ras and I, we will be doing, I think, a recorded video tomorrow or after tomorrow, something about U.S. taxes.
Something
like
we're working on.
We're working on
several things all at the same time here. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So well, we want to thank you so much, guys, for your support. Remember, if you have not subscribed yet, please do so. Follow me on Twitter. I get a lot on Twitter, and there's a community now. I got over 2,000 followers, whatever. We discuss issues like we do here, guys. So please, if you get a chance, follow me on Twitter. And look forward to the link I'm going to post for you in the description as far as our masterclass. I can't wait for that, Ross. How to think like a geopolitical analyst. And Ross and Elizabeth is going to be providing one side of that pertain to psychology and human behavior.
Yes.
Very, very, very interesting. So we hope you find this information very useful, guys. And as always, stay informed. Till next time. Bye-bye.